All right, welcome back, everybody, to Match My Smoke, the podcast. Today we have a really great guest, CEO of Canna Farm. This guy has been in the industry for a long time now, over half a decade, putting in work over a decade, over 2 decades, just pretty much sacrificing his life, giving his knowledge, giving his whole, existence to the industry. This CEO of Canna Farm, Talvin White. Let's give him a round of applause, y'all.
How you doing, brother?
Here we go. Yes, sir. What's going on, Talvin? How you been, man?
Just chilling, bro. How you been doing, man?
I've been doing all good, man. Making content, doing what we do. We see you've been moving around a lot in the industry. You've been, not just at events and things like that, but you've been making a lot of headway on the nonprofit side. We see you made some good moves with good deeds. So we want to get right into that. I know what Canna Farm is, but for the people who don't know, the people that'll be watching this, let them know what Canna Farm is.
The Canna Farm is a social equity cannabis brand. We specialize in quality products. I want to bring land race, old school strains with real medicinal content and value. And we're about bringing back and giving back to the community. Also about trying to lower some of the prices and increase the quality for the consumer. So I'm located out of North Chicago, Illinois. Won my social equity license in 2023, and right now we basically just about educating all those who come from the social equity side of things, trying to get them information so they can become successful.
Now that phrase is thrown around a lot, social equity. We know that you've been a part of it for a long time, but can we just give a brief description for people who just don't know what that
If
is?
you if you want to talk about the word means different things to different people. If you want to get to the truest essence of the word, social equity means those people who have been traditionally marginalized and impacted by the war on drugs, racially profiled, families have been put in jail for decades, living in impoverished areas and taken advantage of by police that didn't look like them. Um, uh, Disempoverished people, people who are veterans, people who have a short end of the stick, so to speak. That's what true social equity is. But because of the rules, some people would like to extend that to things that don't necessarily fall within those parameters.
Okay, and I know we're gonna get into that. Um, we want to hop into the content and just talk about how you were able to grow your business. Um, Here in Illinois, we've been legal now for a little over 5 years, maybe in 5 years, in that mark right there. How has your experience been
Like
growing?
seven,
About
7 years.
you said about seven. I stand
Yeah,
correct.
legalized in 2018.
Okay. We gonna fact check all that and make sure and make
Yes,
sure
sir.
we all good. But yeah, no, for sure. But it's been legal for a minute now. For sure, over half a decade. And what has your experience been like, good and bad?
The experience was good when I first found out about the lotteries when they first started happening. I was actually going through a case where the police was trying to frame me up for cannabis possession. So it was very intriguing to me because I know the type of things that they've been doing for a very long time. So once it came out, the price to get in, the price of entry was far too high at that time. I think it was like $25,000 just to apply. People who look like us don't readily have that just laying around.
Now, were you there day one of the whole process? Were you up on the knowledge that everything was changing and there was some opportunity to legalize?
Yeah, I'm a medical patient. I've been a medical patient. I went to opioid alternatives around 2018, 2019. That's how I know when it legalized. Because as soon as they had the opportunity, I became a medical patient to get off opioids. Shortly after that, they started doing the rounds for the dispensaries. It's just the barriers to entry was too much. I couldn't afford to do it at that time.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure peers around you shared that same experience. What was the landscape looking like at that time for people that don't know?
All the people who were originally in medical, the people who lobbied for it to be medical, started their medical facilities and were given licenses, and then tried to game this. They tried to make it to the point where it would be easy for them to win the recreational licenses. So once that happened, they had a pretty strong foothold on the market.
And what did it look like for cultivators at that time? I know people who were cultivating were eager to jump in the game.
The cultivation, same thing, only belonged to the people who were had the capital at that time to win those licenses. At that point in time, there were no craft grow licenses. There were only cultivation licenses.
Right.
So, which means if you won one, if you had the money to apply for one, you would have to come up with roughly $15 million or more just to stand up one cultivation facility.
15 million. Uh,
Yes, the cultivation facility is roughly anywhere from 90,000 square feet to 120,000 square feet. So it's a very large facility. In order to buy a building that large and stock it and employ the people working there, it costs a significant amount of capital.
And then how far have you come now in the whole fight and just, trying to stay ahead of that and stay in the game? I read a report where it was hard for people to maintain, even the people who gained entry, they found out it was a lot harder to maintain it. How does that work for you?
It's like it's a chicken and the egg scenario. It's a lot of people who got had the capital to get barriers to entry early. They didn't quite understand the business. Just because you have money and opportunity does not mean you're guaranteed success. So a lot of the people who were getting into this, they survived and are still surviving because they were first to market and they had capital, not necessarily because they know what they're doing.
Okay.
So
Okay. So they became, some of the leaders of the game, though, essentially.
yeah, like if you move into a neighborhood with no grocery store, you can be a mediocre grocery store because there is no competition.
Right.
But you understand what I'm saying? But once the competition comes and people know how to operate a grocery store more effectively, they have better products, they have them for cheaper. Now you're in trouble.
Mm. Now you've been obviously very knowledgeable in this, been in the game for a minute, but you've been very vocal about some of the predatory practices thus far and things like that. To give people a little more context, I want to get into some content. A few weeks ago, we seen you post made a very enlightening post on LinkedIn, and we want to get into that so people can have a little context of what happened. So we'll play the clip. We had that post transcribed, and then we'll get back to Talvin just to ask him about what's going on.
Non negotiable. Enough is enough. I'm increasingly disgusted and frustrated by the predatory conversations and practices that continue to circle around social equity cannabis licenses. People searching applicants out just to offer bad, insulting deals for partnership. My tolerance is at its end. These licenses and the broader adult use programs in legalized states were never meant to be exploited by opportunists, middlemen, or out of touch players with no ties to the community or the cannabis industry. These programs were designed to repair the harm caused by decades of criminalization. They were created to give real opportunities to the people who have borne the brunt of the so called war on drugs. Instead, what we're seeing far too often are greedy lawyers and brokers offering exploitative contracts, people who can't keep their own businesses afloat trying to siphon off others' potential, attempts to sidestep the intent of equity provisions with technicalities and bad faith. Let me be clear. I will not entertain these conversations anymore at all. I won't sit at the table with those who treat equity licensees like loopholes instead of human beings. It's only a matter of time before lawsuits follow, and they should, because these tactics are not just unethical, they're harmful. They owe more to the communities these programs were meant to uplift. And if you're not here to build equitably, you shouldn't be here at all trying to exploit.
All right, we're back now. Match My Smoke. We're here with Talvin White, CEO of Canna Farm, and you just heard the content here. Again, we transcribed that from a post that Talvin made a few weeks ago on LinkedIn. You know, we want to get right into it, Talvin. You made a lot of bold statements there. I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't happy with some of those words that you're saying, and a lot of people are in denial that this stuff is even going on. Could we have your take on it and just tell us a little bit about from what was the passion and motivation behind that post? We definitely can hear the words, but we want to get it from you. And then, you know, tell us a little bit, elaborate on the stuff that you were talking about so the people know.
Yeah, I come from a place where we don't really do that phony stuff, man. Like a lot of people out here smiling in your face, but they don't really mean the words that's coming out of their mouth. And there's a lot of people out here playing to be social equity heroes and advocates, but really are the exact opposite. So when you take the fact that I am a social equity applicant, I do come from the hood. I do have friends who have been locked up and falsely accused and all type of other stuff because of this plant. I take it to heart. So especially when you talk about messing with the people's money who this program was intended to help. It's a lot of people in the industry who should not be here. And that's just the facts, and it's the entitlement. The entitlement is the reason why we had this situation in the first place. They felt entitled to send those people to our neighborhoods and police people that didn't look like them. And now they feel entitled to take our money because they can. And the fact of the matter is these licenses was never meant to go to people who were not qualified under social equity status. They definitely weren't meant to be lowballed.
Now, you talked about, you know, being predatory and exploiting loopholes. You know, I want the people to, you know, understand really what you're talking about here. You know, if you can be as descriptive as possible, because you know I talked to a lot of people who had aspiration of being in the industry. You know, we had people that had their retirement money, we had people that had their savings, life savings, and things like that, but they really didn't have the knowledge of what was going on around them. Could you tell us about, you know, how companies and people and so forth are exploiting those loopholes?
It's a two-part thing. One, business acumen is a real thing. You can't expect people with no cannabis knowledge or even business knowledge to operate a successful cannabis business. That's the first thing. So some of the things that some of these people say are partly true. But that doesn't mean just because a social equity applicant doesn't have business acumen, that doesn't mean that you should try to trick them into giving the license over for pennies on a dollar. People who are really there to help are supposed to be offering the business acumen, teaching it. You understand what I'm saying? So my whole thing is this: just because the person holding the license doesn't understand how to run the business doesn't mean they have no value, and it doesn't devalue the license.
Now, what do you say to a person, and this is just thinking about the other side, who says, you know, I'm not here to teach. I'm here to run a business. I'm going to run it the best as I can. If I have an opportunity to, you know, make money, I'm going to make it. You know, what do you say to those? Because essentially that's what's happening, correct?
But normally, if you're talking about a normal business, yes, but you're not talking about a normal business. You're talking about a social equity cannabis business.
Mm.
That's where people get it twisted at. Is like we talk about a social equity cannabis business. This program was carved out for these people. The people who are trying to exploit it, it's not for y'all. Y'all shouldn't even be here. And actually, the laws were written to where if you were exposed doing these things, you should and could face litigation. That's why they were written that way.
But how did this happen? How did we get here now?
No enforcement. Same thing as what's going on with the hemp. There's nothing wrong with hemp. The plant is one plant. But the problem is when you allow players to come in with no regulation, it's the Wild West. It's the people who making the rules that are creating this turmoil.
Mm. And who,
So
you know, just to zone in, who are those people? You know, are we looking at government? Are we looking at private companies? Are we is a combination?
it's the combination. The states make the laws that go into place, and then the people in the companies manipulate those laws and what they can do by lobbying. So we'll make a system, and then we'll make a bunch of little things in that system to where the people who it's meant to help, they can't access it. And they do that. They literally write it into the rules. So where, yes, we'll give you this license, but we won't give you the capital to start it up. Yes, well, you can have it and it can't transfer to anybody else but a social equity applicant. But these people could just wait you out and then find some way to put an applicant on their cap table. There's all type of loopholes that people use to get in this industry who should not be here. If it's for social equity applicants, then it should be for social equity applicants.
In Illinois, Springfield is the capital. That's where a lot of laws have been made. We know that you've been down at Springfield. We know that you've been fighting that fight from the front end. Tell us a little bit about that fight and what's the progress? Where are we at in that fight?
It's the same situation. It's like that with any industry. If you're talking about tobacco, if you're talking about alcohol, years ago when those industries started, they had lobbyists, lawyers, people who went to the government and lobbied for rules in their favor. Same thing happens in cannabis. And the fact of the matter is, the people who are helped create the rules and the people who are taking advantage of those rules are the same ones with the capital to keep lobbying for their interests.
Mm.
That's where the problem comes in at.
So, we've talked about kind of where we are now. What does that look like for the future? What is social equity? Where are we at now?
I don't point the finger because you can't sit there and say the man did this and the man did that all the time. Eventually, us as black and brown people got to stand up, and some of us with wealth and money need to start taking more interest in the cannabis industry. We can't complain about other people taking our assets when we don't have people who look like us offering a hand.
Mm.
It's a
So,
two-way street.
So now we talked about a lot of entry point, actually getting in the game and being able to, at least start. What about a lot of people that's been in it over these years? It's been a little arduous for them to maintain. We've read stories of companies that, we've seen in Michigan where so many companies have went out of business for, various reasons and such. Obviously these companies were up and going. What does that look like to enter a business that, it seems like it's having a little bit of an oversaturation and a little confusion in how things are being displayed, especially here in Illinois?
That varies from state to state. Illinois has the opposite problem. Illinois is not saturated. Illinois has a lack of brands, a lack of capital, and a lack of marketing. Other places have an oversaturation problem. There's just too much competition, so the prices keep getting lower and the quality is averaged out. We don't really have that problem. The quality is low in Illinois because the rules were made to where nobody can really compete. The microbial content is so low that it's hard to create a superior product when you have to go within those parameters.
Mm,
Like once again, it goes back to lobbying. You know what I mean? The MSOs and the people who were in power made these laws like that for a reason.
mm. Today in the Tribune, Chicago Tribune, they released a story, and the headline is "The Growing Debate: Cannabis Growers Want the Option of Cultivating Outside, but the state is making it harder and harder." We're talking about most legal cannabis in Illinois is grown without the sun, wind, rain, or even some cases soil. But opportunities to grow cannabis outdoors in Illinois have been limited. Tell us about your experience. We know we wanted to pick that story because we know you would have, some expertise behind this. Tell us a little bit about this, Talvin.
It goes back to what we were just talking about, Jeremiah. Lobbying. There are people in Illinois that can grow outdoors. Those people who got their rights grandfathered in.
Mm,
There are two or three different facilities here that are allowed to do so because they are MSOs, they have cultivation licenses, and that was written into their license. But others don't have that option. So it would make the prices to produce a lot lower if we can use organic, natural sunlight and other products. But when you grow a plant to its full potential, it will exceed those microbial content limits that Illinois has set.
what do you think are some of the prohibitions?
Microbial content limit and no outdoor cultivation for every craft grow. If every craft grow was allotted the same amount of canopy space outdoors as well, then they would be able to expand their businesses and grow for cheaper and compete.
And just
But
so
they're not
I'm
allowed to.
and just so I'm clear, what do you think of the prohibitions from the lawmakers? They're not out there, doing that particular work.
The problem is that these laws for cultivation were already written and set in stone. It's much harder to change the law once it's already put in place than it is just to create a law from scratch.
True.
So that's the reason, and that's another reason why they did it. It's very hard. You'll have to get a bunch of people who are in the same position to all get together and then go to the state and complain. And then on top of that, you have to have consumers with them complaining.
Mm.
Then you might get some change.
Tell us a little bit more about the future of Canna Farm.
It's about neighborhood and community. I realized that I couldn't do this alone. It's like most things. So when I first really got into this, I decided to get a strong team around me of people who actually knew what they were doing. So I got Maja Solomanji, I got Chris Atkinson, I got Donna Bracy, I got Daniel McCarthy from Dope CFO, all people who have been in the industry for a decade plus.
It's always good to have somebody, who have expertise in their field getting it done. And I mean, for
Yeah.
you to have the reach and the knowledge, because apparently they trust in you. So you had to have some things that they saw not only potential, but a lot of people in this day and age don't just invest in potential no more. They
Fact.
invest in they want to see some real shit.
True.
like,
True. Straight fact.
like,
Yeah.
okay, now we got a few notes here. You continue to, show integrity by trying to inspire the community. We know that you had some workshops going on where you were trying to educate people and let them know certain things. Now, before we get into what that is and what that looks like, why, as you're running a business, why do you find that important to continue to do that? To specifically, try to inform people, inspire them, educate them in the industry.
The educational platform is another way for us to help the community. A lot of times, black businesses and social equity businesses fail because nobody's giving them information, they're charging them for it. Every time you look up, they're charging for this, you're charging for just basic information to get to the next step, people are charging them for. It's kind of hard to get a business off the ground when you already don't have capital and people are steadily squeezing you for more money.
Mm.
So I felt like if I can offer basic information, stuff to get people going, then that's what I'm going to do. You know,
And so far, is it anybody that's kind of been your Daniel son and you been they Mr. Miyagi and you seen them grown and seen them do some great things in the industry? Anybody you want to shout out in particular?
Jariel Webster, a friend of mine, he's a license holder. I've been giving him a lot of information. He's well on his way to being open pretty soon. That's my brother. Um, who else? I got a couple of different license holders. They really aren't up and going yet, so I don't want to yell their name out there. But there's a few people that I've been mentoring. Tamaya, it's a friend of mine named Tamaya Ware.
Okay.
She's creating her new honey, hemp infused THC honey. Just a few people who look like us that I help from time to time, just because they ask me for it. You
Mm.
know.
And now you seeing them grow and blossom and make some headway in the industry. No, that's fantastic. And for those of you who don't know, that's how I kind of met Talvin. Talvin and I met at a Black Chamber event. CEO Larry Ivory, shout out. And I seen his shirt. His shirt had cannabis on there. He was the only one in there, kind of out there bold with it. So I knew I had to talk to him immediately. And I knew off back that he had a lot of knowledge about the industry. He was willing to talk all day about it. So this brother is definitely knowledgeable and on fire, and most importantly, passionate about the industry. Now we want to talk a little bit again about Canna Farm. We know that you have the merch and things like that, but tell us about sort of a big question most people gonna ask you. Let's say that's not in the community of people like the influencers and people who throw events type community. They're outside of the community, and a lot of those people just gonna come up and ask, how how can I be a part of what you have going on? We want to know how can we link from, getting information from you or helping you. How can we do that?
We've got a couple different projects. My friend and colleague Diane Howard, she's an actress. She got a cannabis company called Sweet Greens, doing some collaboration projects with her. And then we also have CCCI, Cannabis Community Colleges of Illinois. That's the College of DuPage, College of Lake County, Triton. We're having some talks with Wabansi. UIC is involved, and we got two other campuses or colleges that are involved.
Hold
And
on,
what we're
hold on,
doing is,
hold on. Just so I'm clear, hold on. You can't pass over that very fast. Hold on. Just so I'm clear. Are you telling me that you're allotting classes, cannabis classes at accredited colleges?
yes,
Oh, you got
yes,
to
I
tell
help.
us more about that.
Yeah, I got a friend, Kelly Burke. She owns Kiff Cure. So it's a hemp company out there in out by Elburn. It's one of the largest hemp companies in Illinois, and she's been doing a lot of teaching along with my friend Sandy Cerna.
Okay.
And we were at the College of DuPage about maybe 2 years ago, and I was told by their project coordinator, Brendan out of here, that they have no enrollment. They had an enrollment problem. It's a beautiful college, very rich. They have a culinary institute there, a restaurant where they have a 2 week waiting list just to get in the restaurant. It's a beautiful place, but they were having problems getting students there for the cannabis courses. So I offered to him because I'm an alumni of College of Lake County. I offered to him to coordinate with the other colleges to get their students to College of DuPage to get the enrollment up.
Mm.
So once we did that, we realized that if we contacted these colleges and we spoke to them, then we can get them to agree to accept college credits from our hemp courses, agricultural college credits. So what we do now is what we allow students who have go to colleges who don't have a cannabis or hemp program
Right.
to come learn how to cultivate hemp and still get their accredited agricultural courses
So
towards
this
their
can.
degree.
Oh wow, because when I was in college as well, I took horticulture and things like that, and that's right there. I mean, you could take horticulture and learn how to cultivate, but you're saying that you guys negotiated something where these accredited colleges will swap out that traditional horticulture or science in some way, and they can grow and learn how to cultivate cannabis.
Yeah, not only that, a lot of the enrollment problems with the College of DuPage were that the students weren't coming because there was no hemp being grown. There was no cannabis being grown. Nobody wanted to be there. So what we did is we helped acquire a hemp research license for the college. Now they can grow, and the students will come because now they can see the plants grow.
Oh wow, hemp research license. Do y'all hear that, folks? The man is sitting here getting hemp research licenses passed, so the future can learn how to grow properly. I know I had segued a little bit, but I was like, hold on, that's major right there. So I mean, getting back to what we was talking about, just the future of Canna Farm. You was mentioning the next step in you guys marketing and things like that.
Yeah, we are working with a portable testing device now. It's under a rebranding. We're going to be using that in collaboration with the college programs to get some testing done.
Now you said
Basically,
that's what? Can you explain that?
a portable testing device that tests for terpene, THC, CBD, CBG, CBN. It lets you know the levels of terpene profiles in a particular plant. It tests leaf,
Okay.
it tests concentrates, and it tests flower.
But nothing harmful and things like that. If the plant is damaged and things like that, do it test that as well, or that's a
The
different
only thing
device?
it doesn't test for is heavy metals and pesticides and mold. It doesn't test for mold, heavy metals, and pesticides. Only the actual CBD, CBG, CBN, THC, and terpene content of the plant. It also tests psilocybin, vegetables, and herbs for various contents if you calibrate the device to do so.
Is that a service that you all offer at Canna Farm?
I am a rep for the company, and Maja and I will be doing marketing for the company. But right
Okay.
now, because we're doing rebranding, we're kind of just like waiting till the new pamphlets and stuff come out.
Okay. Okay. And then what other things are you doing currently to, let people know about Canna Farm? And this is for those people who out there who trying to start and have to know what, the process looks like and things certain people are doing who's been in the industry for a while?
Well, I work with a company called Cannabisiac. It's a cannabis company. They're based out of Jamaica and over there in the islands. It's predominantly black and brown people who run the non-for-profit organization Cannabisiac,
Okay.
and we've been doing a lot of work out there as far as it pertains to education in U.S. Virgin Islands. Maja and I just applied for some cultivation licenses in USVI in St. Thomas and St. Croix. A reggae artist, a friend of mine named Nayora,
Mm.
he has some property out there, and we will be doing music events and cannabis events with him. And we pretty much just teaching education and trying to bring Cannabisiac on to do the same things that we're doing with CCCI in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Mm. So now you guys are going to the islands with it now. That's
Social equity.
exactly. And it makes sense. I mean, you're trying to create those partnerships and collaborations with people who thinking like you, and sometimes you got to think outside the box and go outside the box. So,
Definitely.
yeah, no, absolutely. And that was major that you said you doing a partnership with musicians and things like that, and trying to get some. Are you talking about like Essence Fest type festivals, brother? What are we talking about here?
Gonna be a 7 island event where we're renting out venues and we're bringing in artists, like famous artists from the islands, like the reggae, some American artists, hip hop, and it's for the culture. We'll be brand promotion, passing out our pre rolls, showing people our merchandise, talking about the new educational platforms that we got coming up, the dispensary licenses that are about to start being released in the next couple months out there.
Dispensary license out in the islands.
Yeah, you have to be social equity. You have to be a resident,
Okay.
and yeah, we can help people if people who have residency down there or have family members that have residency. We can help you write your application. You know,
And how do you even find out about this? I know that's a question burning in somebody who's watching this right now. Where would you even go to look for these opportunities?
the Scene organization, which I'm also a part of, Alicia Royster, and also MCBA, Mike Lamuto. You can go to those organizations and they will inform you of certain things for black and brown people and social equity people, those opportunities as they come. You also can just go on the internet and check upcoming social equity lotteries in new states.
Mm.
Constantly be on the lookout for it, and then you will know when the new lotteries in different states are opening for social equity status.
Now I wanted to actually, I'm gonna piggyback off that right there, and talk about other states because I got a chance to see you, and when I first met Maja out in Vegas at MJ BizCon, and we were out there, and at that time that's when you were telling me first about Minnesota and going out to Minnesota. Fast forward to today. What does that look like? We've seen some changes in Minnesota right now. So, what does that look like for you? Where are you at with that? How does that out of state look?
Maja and I have won multiple licenses in Minnesota, and my friend Diane Howard has some things going on out there too. So we have strong roots down there in Minnesota as it pertains to cannabis, and we have multiple licenses. We're just trying to figure out the same things up there that we were down here. It always boils down to capital and prime locations.
Now, are you trying to go full force with a brick and mortar dispensary, or are we just talking brand, product and other dispensaries? What's the whole play looking like?
Both. The fact of the matter is, there are very few African American social equity cannabis companies. My aim is to become one. So that's why we're applying in every single state that has social equity status. I've won in Illinois, and so has Maja. We've now won in Minnesota, and we anticipate winning in USVI. We will be applying in Rhode Island. In any place around here that legalizes that has a social equity platform, we're applying.
Now, this might be, a hot topic, but I want to ask, with those license, we've heard crazy stories about people, who end up they get the license, they obtain it, they don't have the capital looking for it in the future. They have some of their peers that encourage them not to sell the license, and they inevitably sell. Tell us what's been the discipline and things with you all that have not only had you obtain more, but you pretty much, been holding on. Or have you ever sold a license yourself?
Yeah, it's the old saying, man. If you don't know, you don't know. Or if you know, you know. And the fact of the matter is, if a social equity applicant in a newly legalized state has an asset that's worth $2 million, and somebody offers them 1.6 million for it, they should take it, especially if they don't understand how to operate a cannabis business. Because the odds of you being able to make that 1.6 that they were offering in the next 5 years without being in debt is very slim.
Mm.
Very slim.
So you're pro, if the situation is good, sell the license.
Sell the license, but don't give up on. This is the situation. People think that because they sell the license that they can no longer be in the cannabis industry. There will be opportunities to acquire a license or maybe partner with someone who has a license. The problem that we have is we don't have capital to buy the building. We don't have capital to pay our employees. We don't know how to source our employees. We don't know how to source our product. Those are
Equipment.
the reasons. Equipment, anything that you, it's just like shopping on a budget. You can get quality inputs, but you can't overspend if you don't have the money.
Mm.
A lot of people don't understand that. If you have the business acumen, if you have the capital, you can acquire the license later or partner with somebody with the license. If you don't have the business acumen or the desire to be in this, then you should sell the license.
Mm.
And that's just the reality.
So the cannabis business being in the industry, we're talking dispensaries, brick and mortars, up and going retail shops and things like that to the people. This is a very expensive business to enter.
Yeah. Not only that, it's retail is not. You know how you go to and you can't think about cannabis retail like normal retail. In normal retail store, you go out and you find a product that you want to sell, and you can find a supplier anywhere to get those products for cheap. With cannabis, that's not the case. With cannabis, just because you have a retail store, if you don't preemptively have a way to get quality products for cheap, possibly on consignment, you're going to fail.
Mm.
Just because of the cost of the products, the different variations of the product, and the pickiness of consumers. It's not a normal retail business.
And how have you been finding ways to stay, ahead of that and making your brand stay afloat?
Because I don't just come from the retail side of cannabis, I come from the supply side. I understand what it takes to grow quality products at a cheap price. I understand and I'm around other people who cultivate, so I can get bulk inputs and products potentially for cheaper than others.
Mm.
I established networks with growers who needed to put their products into stores ahead of time before I'm even open.
Okay.
A lot of people don't think about that. They're too focused on trying to get the retail up, not realizing what they're making connections to get the products that they're going to need to sell.
What's the harshest reality you had to, bite down on since you've been in the game?
Thinking that because I had this opportunity that people would value it like I do and give me money to see a black social equity company succeed, because why not? Like that was unrealistic for me to think that. And now I realize, so if you want to do something, like my mom used to always say, you want something done right, do it yourself.
Mm, mm, mm. Mama is
So,
definitely right. You know,
and I've been the type of person my whole life. Nobody never did nothing for me. Anytime I had to come up with something, I had to come up with it. I don't know why I thought this was going to be any different, but
and inevitably, I mean, that's a great lesson learned for anybody who's trying to do anything that's worth doing. You know, nobody's gonna give a shit.
facts, facts. So don't even fix your mind to thinking that way.
Now, past even the business industry side, what's your thoughts on the whole culture side? Let's talk about, Illinois. We can talk about Illinois as a whole or just talk about Chicago and Chicagoland area. What's your thoughts on the events, the people throwing them, how the culture is being displayed, and how the stigma is being either perpetuated or turned around?
Culture is divided because a lot of people are not on the same page. You got people who prefer hemp and don't want to walk into dispensaries, and then you got underground people who have no need for it because they've been getting it how they've been getting it for decades. And then you got the industry that's trying to siphon off both of those cultures.
Mm.
Until it's some type of realness around here and some type of uniformity, you won't get the street people to come in and hobnob and rub elbows with the cannabis culture in Illinois. It's just the only thing that's going to happen and make that happen is actual real social equity brands that's actually from the streets and for the people. When that happens, then you'll see a merging of the culture. Until that happens, then you're going to continue to see what you see. They're going to be popular brands. They're going to be brands that survive, and they're going to be brands that have a very short shelf life.
And how does that affect, the events that happen out here in the Chicagoland area?
Events that happen here in the Chicagoland area are heavily predicated on sponsorship. If you have a nice venue and the sponsorship is there, then you can make it pop. But it's not like people just rally around cannabis anymore like they used to. It used to be a point in time when this was new. All you gotta do is say the word cannabis and it'll be a million people there. They're coming. Now, because of the cost of everything and our economy and people being disappointed with the quality of certain things,
Mm.
it's harder to throw these events and have the turnout that you would have had.
Now, what are those certain things you've been seeing that people are disappointed with?
Quality and price. I mean, you're paying $70 an eighth for stuff that's not even matching up to what you can get on the street, and it's a problem when people know. If you know, you know. It's a lot of people who are patronizing who don't know.
Mm. How do you see the atmosphere changing? You mentioned something that I want to really tap into, though. You said people are not working together in the community. Everybody is kind of soloing for self. And this will be a question I probably ask a lot of guests on here to see their aspect of that. But what's your take on that?
Everybody, especially when you talk about the black and brown community, like, everybody's gonna not always get along. But when you're in the industry and you're scratching for your life, it makes more sense to have a strong foundation of affiliates than it does to be stubborn and sink. And the problem with us is we'll rather be stubborn and sink than collaborate. And I'm to the point now where if I can tolerate you, if we have mutual things that we can accomplish, I have no problem with collaboration. A lot of people don't feel that way. Oh, I'm going to do it by myself. They only seek for help when they're in need of it. It's like that's not the way to do things.
Mm, mm. And then talk to us about, a lot of the lies and a lot of the misleading that happens in the industry. We want to really pinpoint on that. What's your experience?
Sharks and piranhas, man. Sharks and piranhas is a lot of people in this industry don't really know what they're doing and they're using the gift of gab to get by. A lot of lies being told, a lot of people positioning themselves without actually having collateral. A lot of people offering stuff that they don't have control over. And that's just the nature of this industry. And a lot of it is due to the fact that people saw that they can bend these social equity rules and slide into the gray area. So it's a lot of people out here just lying and being sharks.
Big capping. A lot of lying, a
Big
lot
time.
of lies going on.
Yep. Fake it till you make it to the tenth degree. You know,
With all this in the pot, what's some of the positive things you've been seeing coming out of the industry that could, help us get to a more cohesive and more unified place?
people waking up, people actually starting to talk about things that's been going on instead of sweeping it under the rug.
Talking about things like, give us some examples.
Like everything we talk about today, like the
Okay.
predatory practices, the fact that people are trying to acquire these licenses without following the rules,
Mm.
the fact that people are trying to undervalue or set market share for something that they don't even have the ability to win. How can you tell me the value of something when you are not the person who it was meant to go to, nor are you the person who or the people who are running these establishments? Who is setting these market value and saying what our licenses are worth? Predatory people. You know what I'm thinking? A lot of people were sold those dreams a couple years ago, and the reality is now starting to hit. They realized that people were lowball for their licenses, and those licenses went to people who were incompetent. So not only did they lowball a license holder, but now they don't even have the ability to pay what they owe the license holder because they're bad operators.
Mm.
It's a sad situation, but
You're saying that practice was going around a lot.
rampant. And 80% of the people who you see now that are failing is because they went into a situation where they thought they were going to lowball the license holder, end up getting sued, or maybe they got away with lowball the license holder, but didn't realize that they weren't going to make the money that they thought they were. So now, even though they got the license for pennies on the dollar, their businesses is failing, and now they have to sell their business, the whole business, license included, for pennies on the dollar. The
Mm.
same thing that they did to the license holder is happening to them.
Now, has Canna Farm done business and or deals with bigger companies, MSOs, maybe some joint business at all?
Yes, one.
And what does that
There
look
are a
like?
few. How can I put this? All multi-state operators in this state are not as bad as some, and I'll just leave it at that. Like there are some that actually understand, but at the end of the day, I'm a businessman. I understand they're trying to make millions and they're trying to keep their business afloat. But I also understand that what they're building their capital on, their business on, was not necessarily meant to be that way.
And then the partnership, did it end up, working out great? Was it a great mutual benefit? How did that go for you?
I'll tell you in a couple months. It's fairly new, so all's good for now.
Okay, so again, you've been seeing some success in the industry, and you've been able to kind of wiggle, finagle, and really move in the industry in a way where your company is starting to see the fruits of that labor.
Industries, like most things, are made off of JVs. Any successful organization that you see that's strong now originally started by collaborating and adding pieces to itself. So JVs, joint ventures. For people who don't know what I mean, joint ventures are very important, especially for social equity cannabis companies. If you got three stores and I got three stores and our friend has three cultivations, it'd be much better for us to join together. And when we sell together.
Mm. And why
Higher
you
chance
think
of
that
success.
practice, why you think people weren't doing that, off back?
Because it's hard enough to have one successful social equity business, let alone three or four. And then it's even harder to get those four successful businesses to see the value in merging.
Okay.
It's like Voltron back in the day. They were all dangerous, separate, but they became something completely different when they got together.
They did. They
That's just the
became a
way it is.
monster when they became together, and that's how it worked. You know, um, we want to thank you, Talvin, for being on Match My Smoke. You've been a great guest. We hope to have you again to lend some more of your expertise. We may even do, chime some other people in where we're able to talk to some other people in the industry, and you guys, talk it out, see where we meet. For content purposes and educational purposes for the people. On top of that, let people know how they can get in contact with your socials and things like that, so they can follow you and just show you some support and love.
Our landing page is thecanafarm.com. You can look us up at gooddeedsconsulting.com. I'm on LinkedIn as Talvin White. I'm on Instagram as Talvin White, Milky C5. Also on Facebook as Talvin White. So you can search me on Threads, LinkedIn, Instagram. Search my name, Talvin White, CEO Canafarm.
And there you have it, folks. We had another great, great guest here on Match My Smoke. Thanks again, Talvin, for being a part of the experience. We don't want you to hang up just yet, but we gonna get up out of here for the people. Match My Smoke, y'all. Bring it. Peace.
Appreciate